Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. We are here every week with news and digested info from the paired worlds of property and AI. I'm your host, Mal McCallion, joined as ever by my co-host, Matt. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Hey Mel, great to be here as ever. Well, let's get stuck in.
Yeah, likewise. It's going to be a good one, I feel. We've got lots to get through. So why don't we start with our property news? All right, so first up in property news, it's those portals again. They are battling it out over the quality of their leads. And Zoopla is claiming that it has had a 19% increase in the quality of its leads. Are you convinced, Matt?
It's a difficult one to gauge, isn't it, as to where that quality is coming from. Where's the proof in the pudding for this? I think everyone bandies around their statistics and the terms of what's going to work through. All I ever hear about is the burden of leads coming in from the portals, but given we can't really keep an eye on the full user journey across everything, where do you substantiate that? I know we did back in 2017, it must have been at Repit, some internet registration research, as we called it, very punchy, IRR if you want an acronym, which gave us some insights across the Repit client base. But again, that was slightly skewed because of the fact that Repit clients tend to be the multi-branches and those willing to deal with a broad CRM expanse. It's always interesting when we get the news for going backwards and forwards, don't we? We had the Rightmove adverts following on from the Zoopla adverts. I think there's also been some Rightmove news this week as well, wasn't it, around the ChatGPT AI images?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and look, just as an aside, it does seem like there's a bit of bandwagon jumping going on here from our good friends at Rightmove, where they've allowed you to essentially make a house look like your personality or something. Mark Schaffman, one of the great journalists at the Estate Agent Today this morning, did his own house in the style of dogs or something. And yeah, I can see the attraction. I can see it at board level. You're sitting there and watching studio giblification of everything on ChatGPT, and you're going, "We really want a piece of that. We've got loads of people who are really interested in properties. They've probably got personality traits. Let's see if we can combine all those things together." And lo, we have this right move filter thing. And look, I spend way too much time thinking that some of Rightmove stuff is not going to cut through. Maybe this will cut through, and maybe I've just got to just kind of go for it. But it didn't appeal to me, I think, is my entirely neutral way of describing it.
I was just trying to work out while you were summarising it there about whether or not mine would have no roof. Am I a flat roof pub, maybe? I don't know what sort of house I would end up as.
Well, yeah, when we did the ident for the podcast last week, and you came up as a bulldog, which was exactly what you predicted.
Wasn't an English bulldog, was it? It was a lot more cuddly French bulldog.
That's true. That's true. But yes, and I came out as a cat, a tabby cat. What? Anyway, I'm digressing very slightly. I'm not sure what we're going to do with this week's ident, but yeah, everybody will see as it comes through. But back onto the Rightmove Zoopla kind of battle. So Zoopla is claiming that out of 2,000 nationally representative respondents, which is always a very good representative respondent to get, 61% of consumers prefer Zoopla for valuation versus 54% for Rightmove and 5% for on the market. It never fails to impress me how surveys that you pay for tend to come out with things that you want to hear.
It's just like looking at the statistics, and like with any statistic, you can massage it in the way you want. And I know that from my old days in estate agency. But the consumer piece, surely the quality of lead is judged by the estate agent rather than the person submitting the lead.
Yeah, yeah. I look, those Zibla would say that this is absolutely rock solid. What they're saying is that they judge it on defined as the number of people submitting a lead marked intending to move in the next 3 months instead of just curious, and that is what is up 19%. Now, it may be the case that 19% more people are intending to move in the next 3 months compared with last year, and it has nothing whatsoever to do with the lead quality that is coming from any particular portal. But again, it's this perennial battle. It is quality versus quantity. Zoopla has to go for quality because it's not going to win on quantity that compared with Rightmove. So I think it is interesting. I think that it's probably the thing they have to do.
Yeah.
So they're doing it, and this is the result. And 90% is a punchy number.
2000's a decent sample set compared to if they came out saying it was 20, just around the back of the pub or something. On the portal front as well, there was, going back to Rightmove, there was a David versus Goliath fight going on this week as well, wasn't there? Where there seems to have been dealing with a very small independent agency and making sure that they got it back in the box.
Yeah, bless them. It looks like this agent's been around for quite a long time and has been called. It's called Right, is it called Right Room or something like that? I think it's Right Room. And yeah, they've been around for ages, haven't done anything. It's got 30 odd people, whereas Rightmove's got 800. And yeah, and Rightmove have sent them a cease and desist that they can't call themselves Right Room because it will confuse the public.
That's good. That just shows that things are working well for you, doesn't it?
I've never heard of them until now. And they call it the Barbara Streisand effect, don't they? Where basically Barbara Streisand apparently tried to stop everybody from knowing where a house was because it was put on Google or somebody said, this is where our house is in the Hollywood Hills. And she was like, I'm going to get a restraining order so no one's allowed to know that. And then just by the fact that she took this to court, everybody now knows where she lives. So it's that kind of that basically thing that shoots back at you when you try and it boomerangs back where you go, I'm going to say, make sure that no one is able to associate Room with Rightmove, and now everybody does. So yeah, no,
Oh,
I think it's crazy. I think it's sledgehammer to crack a nut, and I think it's just, yeah, I think it's mean.
yes, I think that nails it. And I think the other, just while we're on portals, the other story that caught my attention this week was the Instagram agent, Grant Bates, who has got that more view of launching his own agency off the back of his Instagram followers and very much focusing on digital and social media as way of advertising rather than necessarily the portals. And certainly personally, I've seen people having quite a decent amount of success by going down that route. I didn't know if you'd caught that story.
Yeah, and listen, I just so absolutely agree. I saw it when he must have done some kind of promotion or a paid for promotion on LinkedIn because it came up on my feed. I mean, it's a really slick advert and he looks great. And yeah, look, he's positioning himself as the most important agent after. I don't think Daniel Daggers obviously has made his mark on there as well. So yeah, I think it's a really smart and interesting move. I think that more agents should be looking at social media as being an avenue for selling property. I know that there has been a lot about if you put every property up there, then the impact is obviously diluted. But if you've got some real belting properties that you just want to get out, then I think it's a really powerful way of doing it. You will have done the same as I've done. The more AI agentic searches you do, the more you actually find that it doesn't just look for portals and doesn't just look on even on your own website. It actually looks at PR pieces and looks at stories and stuff like that. So I think we're going to entering a kind of golden age where essentially you're going to be seeing properties in so many different places and articulated in so many different ways and social media and championed by individuals and influencers and all this sort of stuff. So I think, yeah, the days of just thinking I've got to sling up on Rightmove and that's all I can do. I think that those are starting to come to an end, and AI is going to help you with that perfect post as well. I think it's going to be a hugely, yeah, kind of Cambrian explosion of different ways of marketing properties. I think it's going to be great.
I think for me, it goes back to that domain authority. I was talking to Matt Gates and Ben Quiney from Focal Agent last week about this. That we take so much time putting together that brilliant content and the pictures and adjusting the pictures and that sort of thing. And then you just chuck it all over the fence of the portals and let them have that domain authority. Whereas with things like social media, especially paid advertising, you can start to actually set out your own schedule. So it might be you put it on your website first, or even you do an early bird email out and then you put it on your website, then paid adverts, social media, and then at the very end you put it on the portals. But by building that domain authority around the content, the LLMs, sorry, large language models, the AI, the various content consumers, and I know we'll come on to this in the second part of the show, have more time to get that and tag it against you rather than it appearing on Move and them getting that first publisher first bias going through.
Yeah, exactly. And which does also then circle back to our story from last week or the week before about Zillow over in the States insisting
Mm.
that customers, that the agents have to put every property on them within 24 hours or never. And I can see that battle for content and that battle for first, like you say, the authority side, because that's where it's appeared first, is going to be something that plays out quite significantly. I think all of these portals must be looking at that and going, we've got to do something similar. But time will tell, and we will refer back to this particular podcast when they do. Moving swiftly on, because we're mindful of time, we wanted to talk just a final property story about Dubizzle over in Dubai, and this is something that you very well, an area and a geographical location. So tell us what's happening over there.
Yeah, so I do a lot of work over with Dubai-based agents and suppliers as well. And when I got wind of this one initially, I was led to believe, I was told that Property Finder had been acquired by Bayet. So to give the background, Dubizzle and Bayet, they're probably the second biggest portal out there behind Property Finder. And I was told Bayet had bought Property Finder. As it turns out, what they've acquired is actually a business called Property Monitor. And to put it in sort of UK terms, it's a bit like when Zoopla bought Home Track. And so the Property Finder, Property Monitor, rather, catch myself there, are very much the data, local market data, local social economic data that people use, a little bit combined with data loft over here, maybe 20 years, but to do with that specific market. So they take a lot of Dubai land department data and massage it and present it back in ways agents can then talk about their markets in a much more succinct and knowledgeable way. So it's still an extremely impressive and interesting acquisition by the Bizzle Group, who is Bayet really from a consumer point of view. And it stuck out for me really as well because of that Zoopla acquiring Home Track, and then obviously there's a lot more data players in our marketplace now than when that initially happened. And we've had things like, so it's like Hannah Parker, who was at Home Track for a fair while, has now gone over to Adland and is building a quite impressive business there too.
Indeed. Yeah, she is. Yes, like you, it sounds very reminiscent of the Home Track acquisition by Zoopla. I do wonder about data and about how unique it is these days. Actually, again, AI can do some phenomenal things with data without you having to go to the trouble really of hiring a load of these data scientists and getting all into particular lines and all that sort of stuff. Now, it's probably still a bit immature, I'd say. So actually, you can't necessarily just throw data at an AI and expect them to just come back with the answers. So I think perhaps there is a time frame where this makes sense, and having unique content and all that sort of stuff is going to be of value. But I do wonder that if this is data that is relatively open source, and again, that might not be the case over in Dubai, maybe these guys have got proprietary data that isn't everywhere else. I do think that if it is open source data, then pretty much it's going to be table stakes pretty much going forwards, because everybody's going to just go, actually, I can just ingest the stuff that's relevant to me. If I'm Cambridge, then all of the Cambridge data is going to be out there. I can suck it in, I can get AI to analyze it, blah. But yeah, I think that if there's proprietary data in there, and every agent has their own proprietary data, where you have stuff inside your business that nobody else has got. So one of the things we constantly start to talk about on this show and elsewhere is think about your content. And as you say, just throwing it up onto Rightmove in the first instance, that's your content. You spend money creating it, collecting it, be more careful with it. And this possibly is also the case here as well, is that actually you've probably got more data internally than is out there in the collective world about your patch. So yeah, be careful with it. And yes, whether this is a long-term acquisition or a long-term play that is going to enable them to stay ahead of their competition, I think is going to be difficult in a few years' time.
Interesting.
Cool. Alrighty, that's our property news for this week. Let's get stuck into some AI and tech news. Okay, so first up, it's all about the Oscars. The Oscars have officially said that, in the nicest possible way, they actually don't care if films use AI, and that's not going to be a feature that is in any way taken negatively for films and for the Academy to award its statuettes. What do you make of this?
I think firstly it's a good job they did, because Dune 2 won a number of Oscars recently, or in recent years. I had a heavy amount of AI doing the work in the background of that. But I think it leads on from some of the conversations we've had to do with call centers last week or the week before, where the AI is helping people from overseas put on American or regional accents, so they're more welcomed, I guess, in the conversations. And one of the ones that I was listening to in relation to the Oscars, I think it was The Brutalist, where they had Adrian Brody playing a particular role, and they tried having Hungarian actors in to do those roles, and it was quite wooden. And so they've gone down this route of making Adrian Brody sound more Hungarian rather than, I think it's Mobland at the moment, the Guy Ritchie box set on Paramount, where apparently Pierce Brosnan, who is actually Irish originally, is doing a very bad Irish impression, and it almost takes the edge off that. I think by saying, look, we've got this and use these tools, for me, it's in the same way that films were allowed to use CGI. I mean, we went away from that for a while, and people who were very skilled at utilizing CGI could do it. And now, if you're very skilled at utilizing AI and pointing in the right directions, go for it. I would much rather listen to a very authentic Hungarian accent than I would do some dodgy Irish accent out of an Irish guy.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. It's basically progress, right? And you look at, I'm speaking about my age here, when synthesizers came along and everybody who was in a band was sitting there going, oh my God, that's not proper music. That's like somebody pressing buttons on a computer. Yes, it is. But it's also massively creative, and people are able to do many more things now. And go back to, yes, some of the dance tracks of our youth, that those things came through because of this technology. So yeah, it's just human growth, right? This is what we do. This is how we learn. We kind of develop and go, ooh, that's exciting, and then crack on.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. All right, so that's the Oscars. We also just wanted to talk about the things that are perhaps a bit more in the cheating zone. But again, there is this new tool, this new app called Cluely, and it's by this Columbia student who basically got kicked out of university for cheating. He's now used this AI to help everybody cheat. And he's got an absolute ton of cash for doing it, right?
Yeah, and it's like we're seeing with AI. It's like I was listening to something this morning where I found out Runway's only got 40 employees, and the AI is really enabling people to go after that sort of billionaire business with a very small headcount, and he's managed to turn it around with quite a small volume of people to do it. And to give context to it, it's AI that at the moment we listen. People join calls now. I joined a call last week where there was more AI bots on the call than there were individuals, and they're recording, they do nice transcriptions afterwards. Sometimes they send you the actions you need to, whereas clearly that this guy's put together following being kicked out of Columbia for using it during his exams is actually doing these things in real time. And so listening to your interactions, going off and doing the research, providing in context suggestions and answers to it. So from a sales point of view, from just a general conversation point of view, I'm sure our podcast would be a lot slicker if we had a sort of heads-up display that was giving us the
This is
information
thick.
and
This is
research.
really thick.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about one of your other
Yes.
ones today, maybe one of your other 5 or 6 podcasts. But it's just having that information in real time, and people might say that's cheating, but already you don't expect coders necessarily to be coding anymore. They're more reviewing them. And I know you've used the term before, and I've used it historically too, which is like the orchestrating of the AI. And if you can have that information in real time, it's not far off where the Meta sunglasses are getting to either, is it?
100%. Yeah. This is there's another report that we'll talk about now, which is that essentially in a year's time, I think it's Anthropic's Claude basically says in a year's time, we will all be working with an AI agent. All right.
Mm.
And so it's happening. What we are going to find, and almost, I don't know, there's so many examples of technology that you look back on and go, how the hell did we survive without it? We are going to be in meetings where we're referring to AIs, and AIs are giving us that hot information that you can actually really use in a meeting, right? Instead of having to go away. So if you're having everybody together, then go, okay, we're going to break the meeting up, we go and find something out and then come back again in a week's time and talk about it. Literally, you're going to be getting that live, and that's going to help the meeting flow, and it's going to help decision making. It's going to help everything flow much better. Yeah, I think it's the PR around this, which is about is cheating and blah, blah, blah. I think it almost covers over the fact that actually this is going to be something that I think a load of businesses are going to be doing and using, because it's just going to be, yeah, like a partner alongside you that just knows everything.
And that was the PR in it, wasn't it? You purposely did it as a way of making it viral and then getting it around it. It's done the job. We're talking about it, and I think about my best mate worked on a TV show a number of years ago, and he with people in the gantry, and the hosts are asking questions, getting it fed back in their ear. That's a whole team of people doing quick research on the fly, feeding back the answers, and even this week I was watching, I think it was Stick to Football, and Gary Neville paused during the conversation, waiting for somebody to go off and check a bit of information online, and then suddenly it's, oh, the answer was seventh. If you're getting that back as you're talking and you can see it and you can digest what's going on, why not?
Yeah, exactly that. Couldn't agree more. All right. So next up, we have a big story from Microsoft. And again, Matt, this is something that's right in your sweet spot. Talk us through what they've brought out this week.
So for me, it's come out with the big headline. It's the year that the frontier firm is born, and very much carries on the point that you made there, Mal, about agents or agentic. If you don't want to get stuck down, when we talk about real estate agent or AI agent, but it's more a case of it's their work trend index that's come out, and I've maybe bang on quite regularly and maybe a bit too regularly about how a lot of these bits of research are from such a long time ago by the time they come out, and the speed at which AI is moving means that we're actually not seeing a true reflection of how things are working. But Microsoft have come out with their work trend index done year on year, and just seeing the shift since the last one into that agentic space and into from the generative AI, large language models, into how people are seeing this. And carrying on your point from Anthropic, that no, we're going to all be involved in these situations, all be utilizing them. And it's more a case of, are you ready as a business to actually make the most of them? And I think that's going to be a real key one for the coming months and years.
Yeah, I agree strongly. And I think, again, obviously, all you need to do is just listen to us here every single week, and we'll give you everything you need to know, right? That's pretty much the service that we want to be providing right here at the Pair. On to the next bit. And again, this is really important news for you if you want to understand a bit more about the kind of AI optimization. So your website, and how can you make sure that you are appearing in these, we've discussed them before, the agentic AI searches, where you can just type into deep research on ChatGPT that you want a 3-bedroom property overlooking the sea, and it will go away and find these. Now, how is it going to choose to use you and your estate agent website rather than using Rightmove or one of the portals, or indeed one of your competitors? And this is it's a great report that's come out from Bain and Company. And essentially what it says is that you've got to be looking at these things. Listen up, get your website providers to be thinking about this right now. So it's going to talk about language, right? So when agents come and search through and scour your website, they're going to be looking for rich conversational text, blogs, explainers, rather than embedded images, right? So that's really important. They're going to be looking for ordered lists, definitions, guides that help these AIs to process and summarize information. They're going to want clean, scrapable sites. Now, really interestingly, this very week, Wikipedia has come out, and actually, because Wikipedia's got so much rich information and it's obviously crowdsourced information, is really good. All of these large language models just keep going and grabbing data off Wikipedia, which is costing them a fortune, because every time they've got to serve up these pages, then it's costing them through the nose. So they've actually created a data set called Kaggle that essentially is, look, instead of coming to our site and scraping us, guys, can you just go and fetch the data from Kaggle, which is really cheap. It's just basically essentially a glorified spreadsheet of data, right? And it means that essentially that they're going to be able to serve this data up to AI much more quickly and efficiently. And this again is something that essentially these AIs are going to be looking for. So on your own website, it's going to be something that's going to be really powerful.
Yeah, and I've done some work on this already, as well as, I suppose, as you'd expect with clients of mine. And there's things as well about the sort of the initial loads, the JavaScript, and make sure it's not too heavy. But also people are looking at having, let's not go too acronym heavy here, but AI APIs. So they're similar to what Wikipedia have done with Kaggle, but being able to serve up an extra load of content that's not there as human legible, but actually can be grabbed by the large language models and taken away and utilized for your business.
Yeah, I think that's going to be super powerful. I think that's going to be one of the big differentiators for agents in the very near future, because if you can get your data out there really easily, then it's going to be so much better for agents, agentic AI to find. So I think that's going to be really, really powerful, really important, and something that every agent should be considering. And I think that it also plays into this idea that if you are going to have this data, you're going to create this data, it's going to cost you money, all that sort of stuff, then again, making it available, really easily available to AI, is going to be a huge USP almost. It's said that in the future, about 90% of all traffic and all searches on the internet is going to be by these agentic AIs, right? It's going to be huge. And only 10% is going to be humans, because we're not going to need to go onto all these lovely websites again. So making it available is going to become so much more a kind of critical business issue, I think.
Speaking of which, one of the stories that actually probably brings this section to a close for us is the fact that it looks like Shopify is getting itself seriously embedded inside ChatGPT as well, based on, I think it was Tech Radar, guessing and suggesting how this might go with ChatGPT and Shopify working closely together, that you might not even need to end up on the shopping websites. You can ask it, what are the best, the example maybe is, I finally got swimming again yesterday morning. So, what are the best, thank you, what are the best swimming headphones that I could utilize while I try to get fit and healthy for the summer? And it not only returns the 5 with the reviews and all the normal sort of things, but then allows you to actually go off, check out and purchase them all from within ChatGPT, and certainly see these evolving quite quickly, don't you?
Amazing, isn't it? Just essentially all of the friction, which is basically making choices and then clicking buttons to pay, it's going to go. Literally, you're just going to think, I've got a little bit of a problem, I want to know what my swimming headsets are, and then within about a minute, it's bought, it's done.
Yeah, and the drone's delivering it, and the drone that didn't complete the marathon is coming around the corner and dropping them off.
Exactly right. Yeah, flying in on a drone, drop down there. Yeah, done and done. Brilliant stuff, Matt. So we're just going to finish up as we always do with our tool of the week. Okay, so this week's tool of the week, something that I think many people are going to find useful, is it's a YouTube summary with ChatGPT. So essentially what you can do is you can basically set this up so that it will go look at YouTube videos and will summarize them without you having to watch the whole thing, without even trying to download them with some of those dodgy YouTube downloads and then bung them into an AI. This just does it on the fly. It's called ChatGPT 4 YouTube.com, ChatGPT 4 YouTube.com, and basically it summarizes videos. You could even try it on our video of this very podcast. So we put this up on the YouTube channel. Go and search for the Property AI Report, and you can give a practice and see what happens, and then get it nice summarized. And not that you wouldn't want to listen to me and Matt chatting about it, but it will give you pretty much everything we've just spoken about without us having to. Anyway, that I think is where we will leave it for this week. And we're very grateful as ever for you listening in. We'll be back next week with even more news and indeed our views on the property and AI worlds. Thanks, Matt. Really enjoyed it this week.
Thanks again, Mal. Great week.
Yeah, enjoy yours. Enjoy the sunshine, everybody, here in the UK. And we will see you in 7 days.